Poor purchasing practices of buyers around the world have led to issues within the fashion and apparel industry, including child labor, poor working conditions, low wages, and more. The University of Delaware's Irma Ayers professor in the Department of Fashion and Apparel Studies, Dr. Marcia Dixon, co-founded the Better Buying Project to reveal where these purchasing practices can be improved.
Better Buying is a new and unique system for suppliers to communicate with their buyers about their purchasing practices in a way that doesn't threaten their business relationship. We measure purchasing practices in 7 different categories. The first is planning and forecasting. The second is design and development. The third is cost and cost negotiation. We ask questions about sourcing and order placement, payment and terms, the management of the purchasing process, and CSR harmonization. We take all the ratings that have been submitted by a group of suppliers for a single buyer and average them. We present that information along with a detailed analytical report to the buyer.
This cycle will be repeated every 6 months. The Better Buying program was launched 2 years ago, but Dr. Dixon began research back in 2003.
The overall goal of Better Buying is to contribute to industry-wide transformation of buyer purchasing practices so that the buyer-supplier relationship allows everybody in that supply chain, the buyers, the suppliers, and others, to achieve their financial, their environmental, and their social sustainability goals.
The 2013 Rana Plaza tragedy resulted in a death toll of 1,134 people. This raised great social responsibility within the textile and apparel industry.
One of the first things we did was consult with a lot of suppliers around the world on what are the most important purchasing practices that need to be improved in order for them to improve workplace conditions. And a lot of those consultations took place in Bangladesh, where a couple suppliers raised the question about, was Rana Plaza caused by poor purchasing practices? When you don't have enough time for production as a supplier, you've got to meet a delivery deadline, what do? You may subcontract out to factories that the buyer does not know about. And so if you think back to Rana Plaza and some of the things that unfolded as the investigation grew, is that a lot of the buyers whose products were being made in the factories in the Rana Plaza weren't aware that they were being produced there. Those were not authorized factories. You also have to think about the financial pressures that can lead to unauthorized subcontracting as well. So a lot of times buyers don't pay the prices that a supplier needs for 100% compliant production, meaning that they're following all the laws of the country, they're following the rules of the brand and retailer's code of conduct. I've heard anywhere from buyers who've discovered that 50%, 70%, I even heard very precisely recently 77% of the non-compliances that they're working with the suppliers to address can be traced back to their business operation. By focusing first on the supplier, it's an opportunity to amplify their voice about concerns that they've been raising actually to buyers for many years in many cases. So we're trying to empower the supplier to raise their concerns in effective ways. One of the first things that has to happen for purchasing practices to improve is for the buyer to understand, from the viewpoint of the supplier, how are things playing out in that day-to-day business relationship? What are the challenges that supplier is facing? It's not just going to call out the negative. We're committed to highlighting the very best practices. Ratings and data by themselves will not change the purchasing practices in the industry. But we do have something unique that other initiatives can work with.
Suppliers should keep in mind that their input on buyers' performances will be anonymous.
We want this to be supplier-focused, supplier-driven, supplier-first.
The next step for Better Buying is for suppliers to go to betterbuying.org and register to start rating their customers.
As we've gotten into this project more deeply, we understand that better buying is just better business in general for everybody in the supply chain.
For 49 News, I'm Mallory Metzner.